Okay, following on from our previous video, we got to this stage here where at 180 it would be 0. So now let's continue on our journey. By the time it gets to 270, tan would be the height divided by the cross. What is the height? The height would be -1. What's the cross? The cross would be 0. So here it breaks down. So dead on 270, we know it breaks down. So let's go back a step. Just before it gets to 270. So hang on, let me redraw this. So now we need to consider what happens when it's just before 270. So unit circle, and 270 is when the dot is here. Just before it gets to 270, remember, tan is always the height divided by the cross. What's the height? The height would be very, very close to 1. So let's just imagine it to be negative 0.9999 divided by, what's the width? Well, the width here would be a very, very small negative. Very, very small negative. So let's just imagine it's a small number. Two negatives. So tan is really the height divided by the cross. The height is this number. The cross would be this number. Two negatives, whatever it is, two negatives, the answer would be a positive number. And you've got a number divided by a very small number, so it's going to be a very, very positive big number. So just before it gets to 270, so that's just before here, it jumps all the way to a very, very big number. It will jump to here. And then, so we know it passes through here, here, here. Dead on 270, it breaks down. Let's continue on our journey. So just past 270, just past 270, what's the height here? The height here would be very, very close to 1, but it's a negative. So just past 270, the height would be, let's just imagine it to be very, very close to -1. And then divided by the cross. What's the cross? The cross here would be positive, a small number. Let's just imagine it to be, I don't know, this small number here. So here you've got one negative. So we can take it out here. And then this number would be very, very big because you're dividing by a small number with a negative. So just past 270, it would be a big number with a negative. So just past 270, it would jump all the way down here. And then continuing on our journey, by the time it gets to 360, you can use the height, which will be 0, divided by the cross, which will be 1, which will be back to 0. So at 360, it will be back at 0. So we know that the graph will look something like this. It must pass through here. Dead on 90, it breaks down. So there's a gap. And then it jumps to negative big, 0, positive big. Dead on 270, there's a gap. And then past 270, it would be very negative big, and then back to 0. As it turns out, the graph will look something like this, the tan graph. The tan graph will look something like this. And you can use the same argument for the negative side. Hang on, let's look at the negative side. The negative side will look like this. So we've got our dots here. The dot moving on. So this is 45 degrees. This here would be -45. This here would be -90. So the dots moves around. Dead on -90. The height would be -1. The cross would be 0. So dead on -90, it breaks down. So it breaks down dead on -90. As it turns out, the graph will look like this. And it goes around in a cycle. Don't forget, at -270, which is all the way around here, -270, it breaks down because the height would be 1, the cross would be 0. So dead on -270, it breaks down. So this is -270 here. It breaks down. So dead on -80, negative 180 is the same as positive 180, so it would be 0. Anyway, it will look something like this. So next time when you draw a tan graph, Next time when you draw a tan graph, draw it like this. Hang on. Next time when you draw a tan graph, draw it like this. 360 and 180, 90. You know 90, it breaks down. So draw your vertical asymptote. You know 270, it breaks down. You know this is going to be 0, 0, 0, and it will look something like this. And then the same on the negative side. Okay?